I agreed to help someone escape, then discovered who they were running from. The car door slammed so hard my rearview mirror shook. My sister Ivy threw herself into the passenger seat, hair wild, mascara streaked down her face like war paint. She didn't say hello. She didn't apologize for the 3 a.m. call that ripped me from sleep. She just locked the door, turned to check the empty street behind us, and whispered 3 words that made my stomach drop. Drive, right now. Her hands were shaking so violently she couldn't buckle her seatbelt. I reached over to help and felt how cold her fingers were, like she'd been standing outside for hours. Ivy, what's happening? She grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. Please, Morgan, just drive. I'll explain everything, I promise. But we need to move before he finds me. The streetlight caught her face and I saw real terror there. Not drama, not one of her usual crises. This was different. I started the engine. We were 6 blocks away before she stopped checking the mirrors. Her breathing came in short gasps that fogged the window. I wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but something in her posture told me to wait. She'd talk when she was ready. That's how it always worked with Ivy. She'd get herself into impossible situations and I'd pull her out. I'd been doing it since we were kids. Bad boyfriends, worse jobs, apartments she couldn't afford, loans she couldn't pay. I was the older sister, the responsible one, the fixer. Mom used to joke that I came out of the womb holding a planner and a fire extinguisher. Ivy came out screaming and never really stopped. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. Her voice sounded small and young, like she was 12 again. "My place. You can stay as long as you need." She shook her head so hard I heard her neck crack. "No, not your apartment. He knows where you live." That stopped me cold. I pulled over on a side street and put the car in park. "Who knows where I live? Ivy, you need to tell me what's going on right now." She turned to look at me and her eyes were red and swollen. "Derek, my ex. He's been following me for weeks and I finally got proof. I have photos, messages, everything. But tonight he showed up at my apartment with a key I never gave him. He was inside, Morgan, just sitting there in the dark when I got home from work." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Did he hurt you?" She pulled up her sleeve and I saw the bruise, dark purple and finger-shaped, wrapped around her forearm. "He grabbed me when I tried to leave, said we needed to talk about us getting back together, said he'd been patient but his patience was running out." Rage flooded through me, hot and clean. "We're calling the police." "No." The word came out sharp and desperate. "I already tried that last week. Filed a report and everything. The cop who took my statement knew Derek from somewhere. They were friendly, laughing together. Derek walked out of that station like nothing happened, and the cop told me it sounded like a misunderstanding between exes." She was crying now, silent tears that dripped off her chin. That's when I knew I had to run. If the police won't help me, if Derek has connections, then staying here is just waiting for him to do something worse. I believed every word. I'd never seen my sister this scared. Ivy was dramatic, yes. She exaggerated, yes. But she didn't lie about being hurt. And that bruise was real. I put the car back in drive. "Okay, we'll go to a motel outside the city, somewhere he can't find you. And tomorrow we figure out next steps. Restraining order, different police station, whatever it takes." The motel was called the Desert Rose. And it was exactly as depressing as it sounds. Peeling paint, flickering neon sign, parking lot full of cars that had seen better decades. But it was 40 minutes outside the city and the clerk didn't ask questions when I paid cash for 3 nights. Room 158 smelled like cigarettes and pine sol, but it had a deadbolt and a chain lock. Ivy checked both twice before she'd sit down on the bed. I ordered pizza from a place down the street and we ate in silence while some true crime show played on the television. She kept glancing at her phone, then putting it face down, then picking it up again. "Is he texting you?" I asked. She nodded without looking at me. "He's freaking out. Says I'm overreacting. Says he just wants to talk. Says if I loved him, I'd give him another chance." She turned the phone so I could see the screen. 12 messages in the last hour, each one longer and more desperate than the last. "Block his number." She laughed, bitter and broken. "I've blocked him 4 times. He just gets new numbers. Burner phones, his friends' phones, numbers I don't recognize. It never stops." I took her phone and scrolled through the messages. They started loving and apologetic, then shifted to angry and accusatory, then circled back to pleading. Classic abuser pattern. I'd seen enough Dateline episodes to recognize the signs. "How long has this been going on?" Ivy pulled her knees up to her chest and wrapped her arms around them. "We broke up 6 months ago. He seemed fine at first. Sad but accepting. Then he started showing up places. My gym, my grocery store, the coffee shop where I meet friends. Always with some excuse about coincidence." Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Last month he left flowers on my car with a note that said he'd been watching me, and I looked beautiful even when I didn't know anyone was looking." The pizza turned to concrete in my stomach. "That's stalking, Ivy. That's serious." She nodded. "I know. That's when I went to the police. Fat lot of good that did." I stood up and started pacing the small room. My mind was already working through options. Lawyers I knew from work, domestic violence advocates, Maybe we could find a different jurisdiction, file in a different county where Derek didn't have connections. We'll fix this, I told her. I promise. You're safe now, and we're going to make sure you stay safe. Ivy looked at me with something like hope breaking through the fear on her face. You really think so? I sat down next to her on the bed and put my arm around her shoulders. She felt so small and fragile, nothing like the wild, confident sister I'd always known. I know so. You're not alone in this. You've got me. She leaned her head against my shoulder and started crying again, these deep, shaking sobs that made her whole body convulse. We fell asleep around 2 in the morning, both fully dressed on top of the covers. I woke up at 7 to find Ivy already awake, sitting by the window with the curtain pulled back just enough to watch the parking lot. See anything? I asked. She shook her head. Just being careful. I ordered coffee and bagels from a diner across the street, and we ate while I made phone calls. First to my job, telling them I had a family emergency and needed a few days off. Then to a lawyer friend who specialized in restraining orders. She agreed to see us that afternoon. I felt like we were making progress, like there was a path forward. Ivy seemed calmer too, less jumpy. Thank you for this, she said while I was on my 3rd call, for believing me and not making me feel crazy. I covered the phone receiver. You're my sister. Of course I believe you. Something flickered across her face then, too quick for me to read. Then it was gone, and she smiled. The lawyer's office was in a converted house downtown, all dark wood and leather furniture that smelled like old books. Catherine Vance looked exactly like her voice sounded on the phone. Sharp, no nonsense, gray hair cut in a severe bob. She listened to Ivy's story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When Ivy finished, Catherine leaned back in her chair and studied her over steepled fingers. The bruise is good evidence. Do you have photos of the other incidents? The flowers, the showing up at locations, anything documented? Ivy pulled out her phone and started scrolling. She had screenshots of messages, photos of flower deliveries, even a few blurry pictures she'd taken of Derek's car parked outside her apartment building. Catherine's expression grew more serious as she reviewed everything. This is definitely stalking behavior. The question is whether we can get a judge to issue an emergency protective order without the police report supporting it. The police report exists, Ivy said. It just didn't go anywhere. Catherine made another note. I'll need a copy. Even if the responding officer was unhelpful, the documentation itself proves you reported the incidents. That matters. She looked up at both of us. I can file for an emergency protective order today. We might get a hearing as early as tomorrow if the judge considers it urgent. In the meantime, you're doing the right thing by staying somewhere he doesn't know about. I felt the tight knot in my chest loosen slightly. We had a plan. We had professional help. This was going to work. Ivy reached over and squeezed my hand. See? I told you Morgan would fix everything. She always does. Catherine's eyes sharpened on me for just a moment, something calculating in her expression. Then she smiled. It's good your sister has support. Victims of stalking often feel isolated and helpless. Family involvement makes a significant difference. We left the lawyer's office with appointments scheduled and paperwork filed. Ivy seemed lighter, almost happy. She suggested we grab lunch at a Thai place she loved, and for the first time since she'd thrown herself into my car, she looked like herself. We ordered too much food, and she told me about her new job at a marketing firm, the friends she'd made, the apartment she'd finally decorated exactly how she wanted it. I don't want to lose all that, she said, dragging a spring roll through peanut sauce. I built a good life after Derek and I split, and now he's trying to take it away from me just because he can't accept it's over. I watched her face as she talked, animated and expressive, so different from the terrified woman in my car 12 hours ago. You won't lose it. We're going to stop him. She smiled at me, warm and genuine. I really lucked out in the sister department, you know that? Something about the way she said it made my throat tight. Back at the motel, Ivy took a shower while I returned work emails on my laptop. My boss wasn't happy about the sudden absence, but I'd been with the company 6 years and had plenty of saved vacation time. I heard the water shut off, and a few minutes later Ivy emerged wrapped in a towel, hair dripping. I don't have any clean clothes, she said. Everything's at my apartment and I'm not going back there. I grabbed my keys. There's a Target 10 minutes away. I'll run out and grab you some basics. She looked nervous. What if he shows up while you're gone? I gestured to the deadbolt and chain. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me. I'll knock 3 times so you know it's me. She nodded but still looked uncertain. And keep your phone on. Text me every 15 minutes so I know you're okay. She hugged me suddenly, fierce and tight. Be careful. Derek is unpredictable when he's angry. Target was mostly empty on a Wednesday morning. I grabbed basics. Jeans, t-shirts, underwear, toiletries. Tried to guess Ivy's sizes from memory. We'd never been the kind of sisters who borrowed each other's clothes. She was smaller than me, more delicate. I'd always been the sturdy one, broad shoulders and strong hands, built for fixing things and carrying weight. The checkout clerk was friendly, making small talk about the weather while scanning items. I smiled and nodded, but my mind was elsewhere, already planning the next steps. After the protective order, maybe we could get Ivy's locks changed. Maybe she could stay with me for a while, just until Derek lost interest or got arrested for violating the order. I was loading bags into my trunk when my phone rang. Ivy's name on the screen. "Hey, I'm on my way back. Did you need something else?" Her voice came through tight and scared. "Morgan, someone just tried the door handle. I heard it turning. They're still out there." My heart kicked into overdrive. "Did you look through the peephole? Did you see who it was?" "I'm too scared to get that close to the door. What if he breaks through?" I was already in the car, engine starting. "Call the front desk. Tell them someone's trying to break into your room. I'll be there in 8 minutes." I heard her moving, heard the rustle of phone buttons, then her voice again, shakier. "The front desk isn't answering. Morgan, I think I hear him talking to someone. What if he's getting a key from the clerk?" I pressed harder on the gas. "Stay away from the door. If he gets in, go into the bathroom and lock yourself in. I'm coming." The 8-minute drive felt like an hour. I ran 2 red lights and took corners too fast. The whole time I kept Ivy on the phone, listening to her frightened breathing, talking to her in what I hoped was a calm voice. "Almost there. You're okay. Just stay quiet." When I pulled into the motel parking lot, everything looked normal. No unfamiliar cars, no one lurking around. I parked directly in front of room 158 and knocked 3 times. "It's me, Morgan." The deadbolt clicked, the chain rattled, and Ivy pulled the door open. Her face was white and she was shaking. I looked past her into the room but saw nothing disturbed. "He's gone. I heard him walk away a few minutes ago." I set the target bags on the bed and checked the parking lot again through the window. Empty. "Did you see what he looked like? Could you identify him?" Ivy shook her head. I was too scared to look, but I know it was Derek. I could feel it. I believed her. After everything she'd described, Derek showing up here made sense in a sick way. Stalkers escalated. They followed. They found ways to track their victims. "We need to leave. Find somewhere else." Ivy nodded immediately. "Yes, please. I don't feel safe here anymore." We packed quickly, throwing her new clothes into shopping bags. I checked us out at the front desk while Ivy waited in the car with the doors locked. The clerk who'd checked us in last night was gone, replaced by an older woman reading a romance novel. "Everything okay with the room?" she asked. "Fine. Just need to cut the stay short. Family situation." She processed the refund without interest and went back to her book. In the car, Ivy was checking her phone again. "He texted me 20 minutes ago." She showed me the screen. The message read, "I know you're scared, but running won't solve anything. We need to talk face to face. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to save what we had." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "He's escalating. First breaking into your apartment, now tracking you to a motel. Catherine needs to know about this." Ivy screenshot the message and sent it to the lawyer. Within minutes, Catherine called back. "This is good for our case. Shows persistence and disregard for boundaries. The judge will take this seriously." But her voice also held concern. "Is there somewhere safer you can stay? A friend's house, maybe? Somewhere with no connection to either of you?" I thought through options while driving aimlessly through suburban streets. Most of my friends knew Ivy, had met her at family events. Derek could find her through social media, through mutual connections. Then I remembered. My college roommate lives 2 hours north. We haven't talked in a year, but she'd help if I asked. Catherine agreed that distance was good. "And tell your sister not to respond to any more messages. Don't engage. Every response tells him she's paying attention." I relayed this to Ivy, who looked resistant. "But what if ignoring him makes him angrier?" Catherine's voice came through the car speakers via Bluetooth. "Engaging makes him feel like he has a chance. Silence tells him it's over. I know it feels counterintuitive, but trust me on this." Ivy nodded slowly and put her phone face down in her lap. "Okay. No more responding." I merged onto the highway heading north, putting distance between us and the city, between us and Derek. My college roommate Natasha answered on the 3rd ring. "Morgan? Oh my God, it's been forever." I explained the situation quickly. "Sister in danger, stalker X. Need a safe place for a few days." Natasha didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. I'm working from home anyway, so I'll be here. You remember where the house is?" I did. We'd visited once after she and her husband bought it. A rambling farmhouse on 10 acres with no close neighbors. Perfect for hiding. "We'll be there around 3. Thank you, Nat. I owe you." She brushed this off. "That's what friends are for. And honestly, I could use the company. Greg's away on business, and it gets creepy out here alone at night." Ivy was quiet during the drive, staring out the window at passing farms and forests. I tried to make conversation a few times, but she answered in monosyllables. Finally, I asked what she was thinking. She turned to look at me with exhausted eyes. "I'm thinking I should have seen this coming. All the red flags were there when we were dating, but I ignored them." "What kind of red flags?" She picked at her thumbnail, not meeting my eyes. "He was jealous. Wanted to know where I was all the time. Got upset if I went out with friends without telling him first. I thought it meant he cared. Classic signs I'd heard described 100 times in those true crime documentaries. That's not caring." That's control. Ivy nodded. I know that now. But when you're in it, it feels different. It feels like love. She went quiet again for several miles. Then so softly I almost didn't hear. Did you ever wonder why all my relationships end badly? I glanced at her, surprised by the question. You've had bad luck with guys. It happens. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Bad luck. Right. That's one way to put it. Something in her tone made me uneasy, but I couldn't pin down why. Before I could ask what she meant, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and her face went pale. He knows I'm not at the motel anymore. The text read, "Nice try leaving the desert, Rose. But you can't hide from me forever. I'll always find you." I felt ice slide down my spine. How does he know? Ivy's hands were shaking again. I don't know. Maybe he saw us leave. Maybe he has someone watching. I thought back to the parking lot. I'd checked carefully, but I wasn't a trained professional. Someone could have been watching from a distance. Or maybe there's a tracker on your phone, I said. Ivy's eyes went wide. Oh God, I never thought of that. I took the next exit and pulled into a gas station. Give me your phone. She handed it over and I powered it completely off. We'll get you a new one. Prepaid. No connection to your old number. While I was inside paying for gas and buying a cheap burner phone, I called Catherine and told her about the latest message. She swore under her breath. That level of surveillance is deeply concerning. When you get to your friend's place, do not post anything on social media. No check-ins, no photos, total blackout. I promised we'd be careful. Back in the car, I handed Ivy the new phone. Only give this number to me, Catherine, and Natasha. No one else. She activated it with shaking fingers. What about my job? My friends? My mom? I started driving again, merging back onto the highway. Call your job from my phone and say you have a family emergency. Tell your friends you're going offline for a few days for mental health. And Mom. I hesitated. Our mother was loving but not exactly discreet. We'll tell Mom together once you're settled. She'll want to help, but we need to make sure she doesn't accidentally give away information. Ivy agreed, though I could see the isolation settling over her like a heavy coat. Being cut off from everyone she knew, hiding in a stranger's house, dependent on me for everything. It had to feel suffocating. I'm sorry this is happening, I said. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. You didn't do anything wrong. This is all Derek. But something in her voice sounded off, like she was reciting lines from a script. Natasha's farmhouse appeared at the end of a long gravel driveway, exactly as I remembered it. White clapboard, wraparound porch, flower boxes under every window. She came out to meet us before we'd even parked, pulling me into a hug that smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. I made coffee, and there's fresh banana bread inside. She turned to Ivy with a warm smile. You must be the sister. I'm Natasha. Come on in. You're safe here. The inside of the house was exactly the kind of cozy I needed. Overstuffed furniture, quilts draped over chairs, bookshelves crammed with paperbacks. Natasha showed Ivy to the guest room upstairs, and I carried her few bags up. Bathrooms across the hall. Help yourself to anything you need. I work in the den, so I'll be around if you need me. Ivy thanked her quietly and sat on the edge of the bed looking lost. After Natasha left, I sat down next to my sister. You okay? She nodded but didn't speak. You're safe here. Derek has no way of knowing where we are. That night, we ate Natasha's home-cooked lasagna, and I filled her in on the full story. She listened with growing horror, asking clarifying questions, offering suggestions. My husband's brother is a detective. Different county, but he might have advice about how to handle the police connection Derek has. I filed that information away as potentially useful. After dinner, Ivy excused herself early and went upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen with Natasha, washing dishes and catching up on the year we'd missed. She seems really scared, Natasha observed. I've never seen someone so jumpy. I nodded. Derek's put her through hell. I'm just glad she felt comfortable calling me. She's always been independent, sometimes to a fault. Natasha dried a plate thoughtfully. You two close? I had to think about that. We're sisters. We were close when we were kids but grew apart as adults. Different personalities, different lives. But she's still my sister. Family comes through when it matters. And that night I took the couch while Natasha gave me extra blankets. The house settled around me with creaks and groans, old wood adjusting to temperature changes. I lay awake thinking about Derek, about what kind of person stalks their ex with such determination. Personality disorder, probably. Narcissism. Maybe something worse. People like that didn't just give up because of a protective order. They escalated until something stopped them. Arrest, violence, death. I shivered despite the blankets and told myself we'd figure it out. Catherine was good at her job. The legal system would work. Eventually. I must have fallen asleep because I woke to the sound of voices. Ivy and Natasha talking in the kitchen. I checked my phone, 6 a.m. I shuffled in to find them drinking coffee and laughing about something on Natasha's laptop. Morning, I mumbled. Ivy looked more relaxed than she had in days. Nat was showing me pictures from your college days. I can't believe you had purple hair. The next few days fell into an uneasy routine. Catherine called with updates on the protective order process. The hearing was scheduled for Friday, 3 days away. She'd gotten copies of Ivy's police report and the responding officer's notes. He documented your sister's complaint, but his narrative definitely downplays the severity, called it a domestic misunderstanding, and noted that your sister seemed emotionally volatile. My jaw clenched. She was scared. Of course she was emotional. Catherine's sigh came through the phone. I know, but this is what we're dealing with. His report makes her look unreliable. We need to counter that with the evidence she has. The messages, photos, the timeline of escalation. Paint a picture of calculated stalking, not a messy breakup. I promised to help Ivy organize everything. That afternoon, we sat at Natasha's dining room table, laying out the case like a puzzle. Messages printed and arranged chronologically. Photos with dates and locations noted. Ivy's own written timeline of events. Looking at it all spread out made the pattern sickeningly clear. Derek hadn't just stalked Ivy. He'd done it methodically. He'd established himself at her regular locations before she noticed him. He'd started with accidental encounters, making them seem innocent. Only after she'd gotten comfortable seeing him around did he escalate to direct contact. Gifts left on her car, messages increasing in frequency. Then the break-in. This is textbook predatory behavior, I said, photographing the evidence spread on the table. A judge has to see this. Ivy was quiet, studying the layout. It looks worse seeing it all together like this. I squeezed her shoulder. That's good. That means the judge will understand the danger. But Ivy didn't look relieved. She looked troubled. Morgan, can I ask you something? I sat down next to her. Of course. She hesitated, like she was choosing words carefully. Do you remember anything from when I was 15? The question came out of nowhere. I blinked at her. 15? That was, God, over a decade ago. I was in college. Why? She picked at her thumbnail again, that nervous habit I'd noticed before. Nothing specific. I was just thinking about how long it's been since we really talked, since we were close. I felt a pang of guilt. She was right. We'd drifted apart after I left for college. I'd come home for holidays but always treated our childhood home like a hotel. Brief visits, never fully present. I'm sorry I wasn't around more, I said. She shook her head quickly. That's not what I meant. Sometimes I think we don't really know each other anymore, not as adults. Something about the conversation felt off, but I couldn't identify what. Well, we have time now. To reconnect. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, I guess we do. That night, Natasha made chicken stir-fry and the three of us watched a comedy, trying to inject some normalcy into the situation. Thursday morning, Catherine called with news. The judge approved an emergency protective order. Derek's been served, and he's ordered to stay 500 feet away from your sister, her workplace, and any known residences. He's also prohibited from any form of contact. Relief flooded through me. That's great. What happens if he violates it? Catherine's voice was grave. Then he gets arrested. But Morgan, you need to understand that protective orders are just paper. They work when people follow rules. Someone like Derek, who's already demonstrated a willingness to break boundaries, might not care about a court order. The relief curdled into anxiety. So what do we do? Catherine was quiet for a moment. Stay vigilant. Document everything. And consider long-term plans for your sister. She might need to relocate permanently, change jobs, essentially start over somewhere Derek can't find her. I thought about Ivy's life in the city, the friends and jobs she'd mentioned. All of that would have to be abandoned if Derek didn't back off. I found Ivy in the backyard, sitting on a wooden swing hung from an enormous oak tree. She was pushing herself gently, face tilted toward weak sunlight filtering through spring leaves. We got the protective order, I told her. She stopped swinging. What did it say? I explained the restrictions, the legal consequences for violation. She listened without expression. When I finished, she said quietly, "It won't stop him." I sat on the grass near her feet. Maybe it will. Some guys back off when there are legal consequences. She shook her head. You don't know Derek like I do. He thinks rules don't apply to him. He'll find a way around this, just like he found a way around the police report. I wanted to argue, but I knew she was probably right. Stalkers who'd gone this far rarely stopped on their own. Then we'll be ready. And if he violates it, he goes to jail. Ivy looked down at me with strange intensity. Do you really think I'm safe? Honestly? I held her gaze. I'll keep you safe, whatever it takes. Friday afternoon, Natasha mentioned she needed to run errands in town and asked if we needed anything. I made a list. More groceries, toiletries, a few comfort items for Ivy. I'll come with you, I offered. Natasha shook her head. Stay here with your sister. I'll be back in 2 hours. After she left, the house felt too quiet. Ivy was upstairs napping. I tried to work on my laptop but couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about Derek, about whether he'd actually comply with the protective order or if we'd just painted a bigger target on Ivy's back. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? A man's voice, smooth and concerned. Is this Morgan Whitmore? My entire body went rigid. Who is this? A pause. My name is Derek Callahan. I think you're with my girlfriend Ivy. The world tilted sideways. She's not your girlfriend. You're her stalker. And you're violating a protective order by calling me. He laughed, light and easy. Is that what she told you? That I'm stalking her? I stood up, rage flooding my system. I've seen the evidence. The messages, the break-in, the tracking. Don't try to manipulate me. Derek's voice stayed calm, almost amused. What break-in? Morgan, I think your sister might have told you some things that aren't exactly accurate. I wanted to hang up, but something kept me on the line. She has bruises. She has proof. Another laugh. Does she? Or does she have stories? Morgan, how well do you actually know your sister? When's the last time you spent real time with her? The question hit too close to Ivy's own words from yesterday. That's none of your business. Stop calling. Derek's voice shifted, became more serious. I'm calling because I'm worried about Ivy. She's done this before. Created elaborate stories, made herself the victim. The last guy she dated ended up arrested based on her accusations before the truth came out. My stomach dropped. You're lying, Derek sighed. Am I? Ask her about Brian Matheson. Portland 3 years ago. She accused him of assault. Turns out she fabricated the whole thing. He lost his job, his reputation. She just moved on. I ended the call with shaking hands. My mind was racing. Derek was a stalker. Of course he'd try to discredit Ivy, try to make me doubt her. That was textbook abuser behavior. Isolate the victim from support by undermining her credibility. But why did his words echo things Ivy herself had said? About her bad luck with relationships? About us not really knowing each other anymore? I stood there frozen, phone in hand, trying to decide what to do. Finally, I went to my laptop and opened a browser. Typed in, Brian Matheson Portland assault charges. The search results made my heart pound. Local news article from 3 years ago. Woman admits to false assault accusation. Charges dropped. I clicked through to the article. A man's photo, tired looking, early 30s. The text described how Ivy Harper had accused him of assault, how he'd been arrested, how an investigation had eventually revealed inconsistencies in her story. She'd recanted, claimed she'd been confused, emotional, going through mental health struggles. I sat back, feeling sick. There had to be an explanation. Maybe Derek had planted these articles somehow. But the news site looked legitimate. The date was right. The details were specific. I searched for more information about Ivy. Found a Facebook profile that looked inactive. Scrolled through old photos. Saw her with different men over the years, always the same pattern. Happy pictures, then the relationship disappearing from her timeline. Found a blog post from someone named Amanda Cho. My friend was falsely accused and nearly destroyed. The post described a woman matching Ivy's description who dated Amanda's friend, then created an abuse narrative that turned out to be fabricated. I closed the laptop feeling like I might throw up. This couldn't be real. Ivy was genuinely terrified. The bruise on her arm was real. The messages were real. Weren't they? I pulled out my phone and looked at the screenshots Ivy had shown me, really looked at them this time. The messages from Derek were all from different numbers. The language was consistent, but I heard footsteps on the stairs. Ivy appeared, hair mussed from sleep. Hey, I thought I heard you talking to someone. My mouth went dry. Derek called me. Her face went white. What? How did he get your number? I watched her reaction carefully. He said some things. About your past. About other relationships. Something flickered across her face. He's trying to turn you against me. That's what abusers do, Morgan. They lie and manipulate. I nodded slowly. That's what I thought too. But then I looked some things up. Brian Matheson. Portland. 3 years ago. The color drained completely from Ivy's face. She sat down hard on the bottom step. For a long moment, she didn't speak. When she finally looked up at me, her expression had changed entirely. The fear was gone. In its place was something cold and calculating that I'd never seen before. You weren't supposed to find out about that. My legs went weak. Find out about what? Ivy stood up, and her whole demeanor had shifted. The trembling, frightened girl was gone. In her place stood someone unfamiliar. Brian was a mistake. I got sloppy, pushed too hard, but I learned from it. My voice barely worked. What are you talking about? She walked into the living room, and I followed on autopilot. She picked up her burner phone, looked at it, then set it down. I've been running. You got that part right, but not from Derek. She turned to face me and smiled, and it was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. Derek doesn't exist. I made him up. The room spun. That's not possible. The messages, the police report? Ivy laughed. Bright and terrible. The messages were from burner phones I bought. The police report? Officer Lewis thought I was a concerned citizen reporting suspicious activity in my neighborhood. I never actually filed a report against a stalker. I just took his business card and told you I had. I backed toward the door. The bruise. You showed me a bruise. She glanced down at her arm where the purple marks had been. Stage makeup. Pretty convincing, right? If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.